So today we are making biscuits. This makes a great side to just about any meal. These are homemade Biscuits Supremes is what they're called. And we're talking about portion control today. You can't have a whole bunch of these biscuits, no matter what it is you're trying to watch. The recipe says it makes 10, which is not true. And it's been a while since I've made them, but it was like more than that. So I'll have to do some math to figure out exactly how many carbs they are, because it really does make quite a bit more than 10. So simple ingredients, it's all-purpose flour, baking powder, buttermilk, cream of tartar, salt, sugar, and of course, butter.
Cream of tartar?
Yes, cream of tartar.
This is the only thing you use this for?
There's a recipe for snickerdoodles that uses cream of tartar, but not in the recipe for snickerdoodles that I make. So some snickerdoodle recipes use cream of tartar, but I do not.
Okay.
See, this is the only time I use cream of tartar. Okay, so it's 3 cups of flour. I probably should be wearing an apron. I'm probably going to make a mess all over my black shirt.
Right.
And
She's a black shirt on work with flour day.
And by probably, I mean most definitely. So this will be funny. I'll have to change shirts before my Bible study later. All right, so there's my 3 cups of flour. Now I need 4 teaspoons of baking powder. I may need to get my other baking powder out. I don't know that there are 4 teaspoons left in here. So baking powder is really kind of your active ingredient in this. If it is expired, your biscuits may not rise well.
Oh, how long does baking powder last?
I mean, this one's good until July of next year, so a long time.
Oh, yeah, good.
But if you don't bake often, you might not use it. Like we use baking powder every week in pancakes.
And waffles.
And waffles. So we go through a lot of baking powder, but other people probably don't. So that's one that you could like forget and it go bad and you don't realize that.
Right. They're just a couple dollars. They're fine.
Right. And then I need a tablespoon of sugar. So my carbs here are coming from the flour. There's hardly any sugar because these aren't sweet. They're just biscuits. And then I need a teaspoon of salt. And then 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar.
Looks all the same. Like the white ingredients with the white ingredients mixed with the white ingredients.
Right? Okay, so I'm just going to kind of mix it up a little bit. And then I'm going to cut in my butter. So there are a couple of different ways you can do this. You can use a couple of forks to cut in your butter. Or, I had to get my mixer. You can use a mixer with cutting blades like I'm going to do. Or you can use a pastry cutter. A pastry cutter is a wire tool that's kind of like a whisk, but not, and it's shaped like a D with a handle on top.
That's what that thing is?
Yeah, it's a pastry cutter. And so you can use that to cut in your butter. Some food processors have a cutting blade or a dough blade that you can also use. I like my mixer. Now this is, cutting in butter does take some time and it requires some patience. It's It's really the only reason that I don't make biscuits very often. It's because I really don't like cutting in the butter. It takes a long time.
Yeah, but you can find a technique that works well for you. Maybe a little bit of both. Like use forks for a while, use that thing for a while, and
yeah, I'm just, you know me. I don't have a whole lot of patience. It's 3/4 cup of butter, so 1.5 sticks. It's a lot of butter. It's where the fat's coming in from.
right, which is why portion control is important.
Yes, and I am using low-fat buttermilk, so that's gonna change the saturated fat rating on this recipe, but I don't know by how much.
And also, you could be using the sweet cream butter instead of this.
This is margarine. This is fake butter. Sweet cream butter has a lot more fat in it. And we were using just that for a while because it tastes so much better, but it's not so good for our waistlines. Okay, anywho's, I'm gonna start it off kind of slow and then gradually get faster. We wanna cut this butter in until crumbs form, and it can take some time.
Type of butter is not so bad, but if you're using sweet cream, because you know you're just that kind of butter lover, it takes a lot longer.
Does it? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, a lot longer.
I mean, sweet cream butter is so much better.
It really is.
Because it's real butter. But it's really not good for you. You could also use half shortening and half regular butter. Not quite. You could use a 1/2 cup of butter, 1/4 cup of shortening. But shortening is also really fatty because that's what shortening is fat.
Yeah, even vegetable shortening is still just fat. Now when you do that, can you explain a little bit on how you're using that? Are you using the mixer?
I mean, basically the same way I would use the mixer for any other reason. I'm just trying to make sure that the butter is getting in through the cutting blades and combining with the flour to make it. And you can see it's already kind of getting crumbly looking. It looks like crumbs rather than powder. As it kind of breaks up the butter into smaller pieces and binds it to the flour.
It makes it almost wet, but not. It's like a dry, but...
It looks like crumbs.
Yeah.
I gotta switch hands. My hand is getting tired. I've still got some pretty big solid pieces of butter that I need to break up.
Do you have any bits of flour or pockets of it that's kind of powdery still?
Doesn't look like it. And actually, the butter's not all that bad either. I'm not worried about it. I think it's gonna be fine. I'm not a fan of cutting, as I've said, so I don't mind if I have bigger hunks of butter in my biscuit.
And also biscuits are generally fine. What other recipes have we done that require cutting?
Oh, loads. I make these sconettes that are like half scones, half donuts that you cut in the butter.
They have a bunch of oatmeal and things in them too.
Yeah, coffee
But,
cake you cut in the butter.
That's right.
That's probably the one you're thinking of, is the coffee cake.
Yeah, that's usually the task you give me.
Yeah.
But
Because I hate it. It's my least favorite.
I don't mind doing it. I really
Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is pour in my buttermilk.
And there it's in.
Yeah, I do tend to scrape it out of the cup because it's thick and sticks to the glass. Okay, now we don't want to over stir. So we're going to just very gently stir until everything is wet.
Oh. Not just going to mix it. Certainly not going to use the mixer.
No, not at all. I'm making a mess.
Good. It means you're doing it right.
Right.
That's what you always told me.
Yeah, that's what my grandma always said. Okay. That's all I'm going to do.
That's it?
Yeah. The rest of it will come together as I need it. So I'm going to take off my rings so I don't get dough in my rings. And I'm actually not going to use my rolling pin. You can use your rolling pin, but it is too easy to over knead with the pen. So I choose not to use the rolling pin. Hope my sleeves don't fall on it. I wore the wrong shirt for making this.
You look very pretty.
Thank you. I am just covering my mat with a layer of flour. A nice big thick layer of flour because it's a sticky dough. And then I want my hands to be good and floured too. I'm leaving my flour out so I can just use it as needed.
Is that a pun?
You're so funny. So funny.
Thanks for the courtesy laugh. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I do have my oven preheating to 450, and it is preheated. Okay, so with my floured hands, I'm gonna flour my hands more. I'm just diving right in. This is one where you cannot be shy about getting your hands gross.
I can see that.
So you want to knead it a couple of times in your bowl.
Like, what do you mean by knead it in the bowl? Like, just squish your hand on top of it?
Yeah, basically squishing your hand into it to get the rest of the flour mixed in that you didn't get mixed in with your spatula or your spoon.
Oh,
I'm being super gentle because over kneading can be really easy to accidentally do. You don't want to over knead. Okay.
Okay, you'll have to explain that later.
I will. Don't worry.
All right.
I am getting the dough off my fingers.
Well, for me, not knowing what you are doing often helps some of the explanation process.
Right. No, I totally get that. All right. Grab some more flour. I have green beans cooking on the stove, and I'm going to check on those because I can smell them. Fresh green beans are done when you can smell them. Just a side tip that has nothing to do with what we're making.
But we'll link the meal that is in that crock pot right next to where we're working.
Yeah. So I'm just pouring my batter, my dough, out onto my floured surface.
From your very big bowl, huh?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
If you do not have a rolling mat, it's totally okay. You can use a clean countertop.
Yeah.
Just make sure it is clean. Okay, so if you over knead, your biscuits won't rise. And it can be really easy to accidentally do that because you don't realize you've over kneaded. So we're only gonna knead it a couple of times. So I'm gonna fold it in half and push it down. And see all these little bits of dough that came off? I'm gonna push them down into it. Okay, and then I'm gonna fold it in half the other direction and just push it down a little bit. I'm not pushing very forcefully, I'm being very gentle. It's more of like it's more of a pat.
Ah, I see it springy. If I can get, hopefully it's not too close, but I wanna be able to see that too.
Okay, and then we're gonna do that again. And I did rotate my dough. And then I'm gonna do it one more time. And you can feel the dough. It kind of starts to like get a little stiff. You don't want it to get stiff. That means it's it's gonna be over kneaded if you needed a whole lot more than that.
Let's keep it plump. I think,
Right.
Is that a good word?
Yeah, and so you can see it kind of spring back in place. You want it to spring back in place. So now I'm just patting it out. Rather than using my rolling pin to flatten it out, I'm patting it out. And we want it to be, yeah, about 3/4 inch thick. So that's pretty good.
Okay, that's good. Maybe we can get that.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my tray. And then I have these 2 ancient biscuit cutters that I didn't even know what they were when I inherited them. They're biscuit cutters. They're just basically circle cookie cutters.
They have little handles and they're not whole all the way through.
And I turn mine a little bit just to make sure it comes up, but you don't have to turn it.
Let me see. Do you have flour on you? I have flour on me. You have flour on you.
Oh, of course I do. I'm gonna have to change. It's totally fine. Okay, so I have 1 full tray. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these in the oven. They cook for 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, and while those are cooking, I will do the rest. Now, I have to be super careful about not over kneading this dough. So I'm really just gonna kind of squish it back together. And I'm not even gonna flip it and knead it at all, okay?
Oh.
Because we don't want it, see, it's still springy. We don't wanna lose that.
So, is it possible that when you bake it, they'll kind of like separate in the middle?
Maybe a little, but I would rather that happen than them not rise.
Yeah, because that consistency is what makes biscuits so delicious.
Okay, this 3rd time around, I am gonna squish it together a little bit more. But I'm still being careful. And then this last one just there has a funny shape.
Just a biscuit button?
Yep. Okay, so that's 7 plus 9 is 16. We made 16 biscuits. So if I can do some fast math for you. You know what? I will do the math. And at the end of the video, when we take our biscuits out of the oven, I will let you know how many carbs and how many saturated fats are in this recipe. We will see you back in about 10 minutes. Biscuits are ready. They are done. They are golden brown on top. They have risen just enough.
So they were not over kneaded.
I'll throw in my other tray. Girly.
Curiosity burned the kitten's nose.
It might. She's not careful. All right. 10 minutes. And I'm actually going to do 9 because I feel like those are a little darker than I wanted them to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they're still good. And they smell yummy and they look yummy. According to my math, they are, since I made 16, they are 18 grams of carbs. So that's better than your homemade, than your biscuits in a can as far as carbs go. But they are 7 grams of saturated fats, which is super bad. So I'm still only gonna have 1. And you should too.
Yeah, because you're only allowed like 18 grams of saturated fat.
A normal person not worried about their cholesterol should have 19 grams of saturated fat, no more than that. So just be careful. If you're gonna eat a couple of these, don't have any other saturated fat throughout the day.
Yeah, because 3 biscuits, if you wanted to eat 3 biscuits for your entire day, you'd go over.
That would be all of it. Thankfully, we're having potatoes, which doesn't really have any saturated fats, does it?
Me a little bit. I put 2 tablespoons of butter.
4 grams for half a cup. So go light on the potatoes. We've got green beans, which doesn't have any fat in it, and the steak, which is super low on fats too. So anyways, here are these yummy, delicious looking biscuits. And you don't even need to serve them with butter because they have so much butter in them. They're a little floury, but they're yummy.
Yeah, homemade biscuits.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and share button for me. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you can find all of our recipes and everything new that comes up. And we will see you next time.